So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this panel discussion. We're live from the UAE and Finland on this one with the expert panelists. My name is Katja Alkaisi. I'm founder and CEO of Education House Finland, and I'm based in Dubai. I would like to ask our distinguished panelists to give us a short introduction about themselves before we dive into this interesting discussion. So, Hind Al-Mualla from KHDA, if you can kindly introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, good morning, good afternoon, assalamu alaikum, and first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this session. My name is Hind Al-Mualla. I'm part of the Knowledge and Human Development Authority team. The scope of work I'm involved in is around happiness, innovation, and creativity, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you. Hunada Hambar from Bia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for having me, Katya. It's really a pleasure to be here. My name is Hunada. I am a school improvement advisor with Sharjah Private Education Authority and a content lead for Sharjah Education Academy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hunada. Minna from Helsinki, sunny Helsinki.
Yeah, it is absolutely sunny today here. So good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I represent the University of Helsinki HY+. We are a 100% fully owned company by the university. We offer education solutions from reforms to professional capacity building. I wear several hats. I design trainings, I advise, and I consult. And some projects I even lead. And it's absolute pleasure to be here with the esteemed colleagues. So looking forward to this.
And last but not least, Dr. Raimo from, we call it Northern Finland, but I think you consider yourself only in the middle, from Oulu in Finland.
Exactly yes. So. Best greetings from Oulu, Finland. My name is Raimo Salo, and I come from Oulu University Teacher Training School. My terms of reference include in-service training, courses, planning and implementation, and nowadays, obviously, all online. It's my great pleasure to join this team and all of you today.
Thank you a lot, Dr. Raimo. So I think we can't really talk about educational resilience without reflecting on the previous year. So, I mean, looking at a Sustainable Development Goal number 4, where we are on the progress towards 2030, unfortunately, way behind globally. 90% of students globally were out of school during the past year. This impacted Finland, both Finland and the UAE. There is basics we've been hearing about the learning slide in education. We've been hearing, I think maybe Finland and UAE are a bit more lucky with basics, but for example, a figure of 65% of students globally, for example, don't have hand washing facilities in schools. So it's not only about the technology and the learning, but so many things during COVID times that have impacted learning, have impacted going to schools. And I would like us to spend like the first part of this discussion just reflecting a little bit on the past year, how we have seen it in UAE, in Dubai, in Sharjah, and in Finland. And perhaps we could start from you, like how has the last year been? We know school closure, we know hand sanitizers, all that, but really, how has it been?
Yeah, thank you, Katya. And I think I'll start by saying, the key points to me from this year, and then I'll say how did I land with these key points. Part of actually my role in KHDA is to look at ways of disrupting the status quo. So last year, it was disrupted big time, out of control. But I think what we've realized is that schools are key to our community. They are some kind of a cornerstone that add structure and system and a way of life to organize our daily activities. Another component is actually teachers are key. They are a pillar of the schooling system, and they are so important, whether it's the teacher is online or physically in school. We've realized that this key activity cannot happen without having a caring teacher in the middle. The third component, what we've learned is actually the students themselves. One of the major things that they missed last year was their friends and the ability to see them and to communicate and to socialize in the school context. And now, how did I end up with these actually conclusion? It was based on a number of things that we did in Dubai. Just to give a little bit of background, and Dubai is quite unique as a city. It's quite diverse. So if I look at the schools, we have more than 200 schools in here. 90% of the students in Dubai, they get their education from the private sector. KHDA regulates the sector and supports its growth. Within Dubai schools, there are more than 180 nationalities. They go to the schools, more than 17 different curriculums. So it's quite diverse. There is no one size fits all when it comes to that. And I think one of the first lessons we've learned when this, it's nearly a year now, last March, is that as soon as it happened, all the community came together. So we've received schools saying, how can we support? We have this online material we'd like to share. NGOs, government department, everybody came together. This is why we've created a platform called In This Together. Now, and we've just asked everybody to share what they have, and those who needs that, they go ahead and actually benefit from it. And within that collaboration approach, we used to have something called What Works, and this was a physical event where around on an annual basis more than 2,000 educators actually physically attend the event. So what happened is that What Works moved into What Works X, where actually the numbers tripled and quadrupled of the attendees, and it was a need-based system where schools say this is what we need to know more about, and other schools says yes, we've tried it and it worked for us, and we are more than happy to share that. Now from there also another element I think we've worked with the schools on is during the summer was to create a readiness plan. So because this is something new for the schools, for everybody, so let's create a readiness plan in compliance with the reopening protocol. And then this was kind of a massive exercise all the schools went through. The fourth component is actually government departments came together to support the school. So it's not just KHDA, it's KHDA, the education, it's the health, it's the municipality. There is a team that started to meet actually several times a day to support the schools. Then it went daily. Now we meet probably 2 or 3 times a day because it's more of a business as usual right now. So all of these platforms was created to support the schools. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
That sounds like, so I like what you said about disrupting the status quo. I mean, this whole event we're in is disrupting the status quo. We have now people in the Finnish pavilion, even from the Bahamas, from Africa, from Finland, from everywhere, who would have otherwise not attended an education event at the Finnish pavilion in Dubai. So definitely, yes, there are gloomy numbers, but there are also like a lot of opportunities that have happened. Hunada, how has it been in Sharjah? Like Sharjah Private Education Authority was quite a new organization when pandemic happened. Sharjah Education Academy was not there when pandemic happened. So how has the last year been across the border?
Well, thank you, Katya. It has been honestly, I would say, unbelievable year in all aspects. I can say, I mean, as we all know, change is one of the main things that we know it's certain. So, but what has happened last year, that pandemic accelerated the change massively. So we focused actually on how to improve together our change management skills with the schools. And the birth of the Sharjah Education Academy was in the middle of the pandemic. That was in July, but also we started from March, our online PD, of course. But I mean, the focusing on the change, I would call it the year of 3. And I'll tell you why 3. I mean, everything seems to be 3. Number one, we focused on 3 main things. Health and safety, whether students' health and safety, teachers' health and safety, educators' health and safety. Number 2, well-being. Students' well-being, parents' well-being took a place honestly. And of course, principals' well-being. The third one is students' learning. So these 3 areas, still until now, our main focus. With the 3 things, how we tried to manage the change together with our schools, focusing on 3 things: communicate effectively, learning collaboratively, and evaluate continuously. So what we have done with the birth of Sharjah Education Academy, we communicate with the education community, all our schools, on a weekly basis. We learn together. We want actually to create lifelong learning organizations, not only lifelong learning individuals. So that was something we tried to create together. And it was an open space, honestly. And we told the schools, I still remember the first time we talked to them through the academy, it's okay to make mistakes because this is a new thing. This is the first time ever where the change happened in the education system that massive, you know. So that was our 3. And I can talk about many 3, Katya, and forever.
We will get back to more 3s after this, but now, I mean, I have personally witnessed like what you have been doing in Sharjah over the past year, and we have all learned a lot. Like we were talking just before going live, we have learned this platform today, right? So we're learning all the time. Minna, going back to Finland, I mean, I know that there is a lot of similarities as well, but maybe also reflecting to Olli-Pekka's like keynote and how education is seen in Finland and how that has been like affected in the past year. And perhaps you could also like explain to us how your organization works with PD and schools directly.
Well, thank you, Katja. Definitely, it's been a tough year. That we can all agree on. But I'm so happy to hear that I'm not the only one trying to push the positive side. We are at the end of this thing now. Next year, we're going to be back to normality, and we have learned so much during this year. We have absolutely gained so much insight on things that are happening. In Finland, we needed to make actually even legislative changes in order to keep the schools running. Because of the same issues that Hind and Hunada brought up, it's all about the well-being of our students and our teachers and our teaching faculty in general. So it was considered that the best place for everybody is being at school as much as possible. So this is why Finland has been championing the hybrid model nearly the whole time. But we needed to make a legislative change because originally the same legislation applied to all the schools in the country. And now we gained, in June last year, we changed the legislation in a way that, for instance, Raimo's koulu can stay open while the schools in metropolitan region are closed. So this gave us the flexibility of controlling the pandemic better by giving the more autonomy to the schools to decide themselves and assess themselves what is best for them. Of course, we have a little bit different situation in Finland because it's usually just the public schools. Everybody goes to public schools. So we have one curriculum, but it's applied differently in different parts of the country. But it's really what I have to say, and I keep on talking to people, I am amazed by all these educational professionals globally, how, being in the front line, everybody has been pulling together, everybody has been trying their best. And this pandemic has really heightened the importance of the highly trained educational professionals and how you need to maintain and keep on renewing yourself in order to stay resilient to the constant changes, and how you have to be self-assured to adjust constantly and apply new methods and be creative and create the new methods. And again, Katja, as you mentioned, at the HY Plus, we also had to adjust. We had a very steep learning curve as well for moving from face-to-face trainings to digital trainings nearly overnight, because obviously we can't travel anymore to see our collaborative partners globally. And we have learned so much during this year as well, how to make effective trainings that has the same scalability, the same sustainability that the previous trainings we had before the pandemic hit us, of course. And finally, one thing I need to point out is the research aspects of things. I'm representing a university here, so of course this is something close to my heart as well. Something that has come out of this, and we have yet to see the full effect of it, is the new research that has come out. Raimo and myself, we at the universities, we all have practicing schools in Finland. And if you're not familiar with the concept, that means that it's like the university hospitals, but for teacher training. So during our master's training programs, the teachers need to go and practice during all the 5 years in different times and time periods. And these schools are high-performing schools which serve 4 functions. They are neighborhood schools. They are the practicing places for our teacher students. And they conduct in-service training themselves. And most importantly, they're research units. So they're actually departments of the faculties of educational sciences. What it meant during this pandemic is that the teachers and the principals that are in the schools, they're actually in the front line, getting new research ideas, testing new methods, collecting data. And this is something that is going to benefit all of us, sooner rather than later when all the research is coming out. So this has been actually also exciting times in that sense.
That sounds very, very interesting, like exactly, because they are in the front line. So you don't actually need to do a test environment to test something. Unfortunately, we've been put in the test, and it's good that research is done out of it. Moving a little to our second part, I would like that we spend a little bit time. I think all of you mentioned the word well-being. Talking about well-being in general, not only the past year, but how it's implemented in Finland, how it's implemented in Dubai schools. Of course, as said, and maybe a little bit touching upon how it is now. Today, I just read in the newspaper that high school students in Finland who have been almost a year not seeing their friends don't remember how their friends look like, which is kind of sad. But maybe just let's look. As said, we're all getting vaccinated. The world is looking much brighter. So let's look at the bigger picture from well-being perspective. And Raimo, maybe you could walk us a little bit through opening up how well-being is tackled in Finnish schools. And a little bit background in that, and maybe perhaps some examples.
Thank you, Katja. First, I'd like to comment shortly with Minna that exactly so, research-wise, the past year has been quite interesting. No single researcher or university could ever have made this happen. So unfortunate thing, of course, but very interesting in many ways. But when it comes down to well-being in Finland, to begin with a little bit background, Finland has been the world's happiest country according to the United Nations World Happiness Report for the 4th year in a row now, and we're the second best in equalness and fairness for all children and their well-being. Holistic well-being in general, when we look at the education, of course, the student is in the very center of every action we educators are performing, and this holistic view includes 3 characteristics, at least 3. Nutrition to begin with. Finland is very famous of its daily warm, free school meal for all students. We also are quite well known of the fact that we provide enough free time for our children and young people in terms of a bit shorter school hours, daily school hours and school attendance. This leaves them enough time to recover after our lessons and homework. And the third thing I'd like to highlight is the recess time. Between every lesson, we give them about 15 and once at least a 30-minute break in order to have some time to relax also for their mind and brain, to go outside and play with the other children. We also have a well-known national special support system. It covers especially the ones who are in need of most support. This system is taking place in every school by law, and it includes also the fact that Finland is known that the students who are not performing academically that on a high level, they get support that they really need. In addition, we've got some national programs, and the schools can choose whether they include them into their activities, but they are rather popular. Just to name a couple, which is the anti-bullying program, and then Schools on the Move program. And if you are interested of them, you can find more information online. When it comes to the management and their well-being, I just recently found two interesting research about the management's well-being. One of the results that was highlighted was their worry about the lack and shortfall of students' learning during the past year. And most of them felt that they have not been able to support teachers enough in order to make sure that the students' learning is still on a very high level. However, well, we have been able to perform here in Finland. Homeschool cooperation was also brought up as a very important factor. The communication between home and school during these times has been crucial, especially when parents have been somehow in charge of students' education, at least very much in cooperation with schools. And the third thing is multi-professional cooperation. During these times, we cannot emphasize enough the importance of other professionals that are related to school, not only teachers, but school psychologists and so forth. And when it comes to the students' well-being, education in general, it's all about interaction. Interaction between the student and the teacher, interaction between the students themselves. All students and all of us, we feel the same, that we want to be a member of a group. And these challenging times have somehow prevented that feeling as well. Online teaching, that is simply completely lacking. For example, the teacher's look. If you think about any lesson situation, the teacher can, with one mere look, encourage students to answer or to study, or with the same way, you can just, with one look, you can tell some student not to do something. But this kind of interaction has been somewhat missing during the online education, and I think that most of us value the human encounter much more post-COVID, when we are finally able to return back to the school. And finally, about the staff members' well-being, I think it's pretty much up to the management's duty to take care of that. In our school, I would like to, with joy, to say that our management decided about a year ago, at the end of the last academic year, to send flowers to each staff member's home, and that was really welcomed with warm hearts. That I think that was a true sign of appreciation of the work that has been and still is ongoing. All in all, I think that the post-COVID time can be somehow be compared to the news of COVID in the media, global media. Many news that usually could have been brought up to us by the media has now been laid down under COVID news. What are those news? Perhaps we never know, or maybe they have a minor existence in the media. But I think that this time when the governments are now planning the exit plans, how to get to the new area, post-COVID area, and post-COVID time can be somehow also compared to the ocean's low tide. Now the water is running away, and we can see at the bottom of we can realize at the bottom of the sea that what is appearing when the water is going away. And I think that it somehow goes along with the post-COVID time. We really cannot say today what are the circumstances, how people are feeling post-COVID, and that remains to be seen. And for this, one option could be the power of positive leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Raimo. And I was just reflecting before going live today that we started doing online events over a year ago, and how much better, like we were in total lockdown a year ago. We were like just learning to use this. Now life is almost back to normal in UAE. So yes, there is definitely the positive sides. Hind, irrespective of COVID, you are kind of the face of school well-being in Dubai. Your program, KHDA, the well-being census, that the 5-year program that's going on. So that has, I think you did 3 years before pre-COVID, right? So I would really like to hear a little bit more about that and how well-being is tackled in Dubai schools in general.
Sure. I think I will start from where Dr. Raimo ended, and he said about the importance of positive leadership, and that was exactly his last, I guess, sentence. And this is where I'll pick it up, because His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai and the Prime Minister of the UAE, said the happiness of the people is paramount, and it's very important. And I think those words really inspired all the work that we have been doing in well-being. When it comes, you specifically ask about the well-being census, and it's something that we've started 4 years ago in 2017 in collaboration with the government of South Australia. They've been doing it even before, and we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we did that in partnership. And so every year what we do is we survey the students from grade 6 to grade 12 about their well-being. We ask them, are you happy? Are you sad? Do you have someone you can go and talk to? Did you have breakfast or not? We also, that was the first year, and then we started asking the adults at school as well. Different tool, but it's surveying them for well-being. So we have a record of this is the 4th year, and according to the plan we have 1 more year to go. And I think someone asked the question in the middle of 2020, do you want to run the census this year? You know, everybody in lockdown, there is a pandemic, so you'll go and ask people about their well-being. And we said, yes, I think if this is the most important year actually to run the census in, and this is what we did. So it usually runs every year in November and December, and the response was phenomenal. We had more than 100,000 students actually respond. We thought, and they are not in school, so probably they won't pay attention to the census, but they did. And also more than 10,000 teachers actually responded. And usually the process is, once we run the census, we have the results. The first, we share them with the schools. So every school, they have a platform, they log in, they see their records, and we are in the process of doing this just like every year, where each school have their own well-being reports on the adults at school and on the students itself. And then after sharing those results, usually we run workshops where schools come together to share best practices. I mean, I've looked at my well-being, what my students are saying, and I think there is an area I need to focus on, and probably that area is quite high in another school. So schools come together to share their best practices. I think I can also, within this area, I can share a sneak peek of the results, and it's quite positive. We've known from before that there is a correlation between the perceived well-being of the students and whether they have breakfast, whether they go to bed early, and whether they eat fruits and vegetables more than 5 times a week. And one of the areas that improved is actually we have more students who have breakfast now. We have more students who go to bed early. So yes, COVID is not all bad. There are certain areas that actually it was positive on the students. Another thing is actually what the students reported is that the relationship between them and the adults at school has improved. So that's another positive area that came out from the census. Thank you.
Thank you, Hind, for that. I mean, yeah, I think globally sleep has improved, right? So like if we wear anything smart wearables, I think the trend there has been really good. So especially on the young ones, they wake up 10 minutes before lesson, like not 2 hours before. So, okay. So we have about 10 minutes left, and so that we also can tackle 12 minutes, so we can also tackle the Q&A. I would like us to look at a little bit way forward. So what, like how Honada, you talked a little bit about accelerated change and how like change happens so quickly and all that. So what do we take from this going forward?
Thank you, Katya. I mean, firstly, I agree 100% with what Hind was saying, and it's really wonderful to see the focus on well-being. One of the main thing to improve the well-being as well, and we will focus on it, inshallah, and we are doing it now, to allow educators and students and parents to know that they can actually. And we're focusing on the skills that will help them to know that they can. And one of the main skills, for example, planning for uncertainty. So we're still in, honestly, during COVID, and we will be during COVID maybe another 1 or 2 years. So the main skills that they need to have to ensure that they know what they want to do and to embrace the systematic innovation. And I know Hind is the master of innovation, and I love your background. The innovation, it's not only, honestly, it's not a fancy word now. It's an important, it needs to be a systematic with every learning organization, because the change is massive. And it's happening, and it will keep happening until we settle down. And I love what the comment about please don't go back to norm. We can't actually go back to norm. We hosted one student during our sessions in Sharjah, and the first thing she said, she was grade 6. The first thing she said, learning will never go back to the previous or to the before pandemic. So that was something really important. So to wrap up this, the change management skills, planning for uncertainty, having the Bloom taxonomy upside down to put the evaluation on the top, although we do not have enough knowledge about pandemic, but we do have what we call it knowledge explosion through Google and technology. And actually, pandemic brought us our wonderful partners. I can see now we run with Finland 3 wonderful programs with Sharjah. So, and we took Sharjah also to the world. So actually, pandemic, there are good things that we want to focus on them. And of course, we will manage the sad part of the pandemic as well.
Thank you very much, Honada. Dr. Raimo, I know we talked a little bit previously, like last week when I talked to you, you were talking about the importance of skills. So how like Hunada mentioned exactly that the elements we need to have there for the planning and all that, but for resilience and resilience and skills, how do you see that?
Thank you, Katja. I think that all in all, the resources and resourcefulness drawn upon this crisis, I think that they could serve to widen the attendance to school and relevance of education in general in society. At least in Finland, I've read so many articles how parents even more value the work of educators in general. For the future times, support systems should be in place. Students' welfare system in Finland, that also is by law in every school. There must be a students' welfare group. Special education, teaching for those who need more help, and student counseling. This kind of preventive work methods could be now taking the opportunity to develop them more based on the results and experiences of the past year. This sort of preventive work systems may also reduce the dropouts and social exclusion of the students. When it comes down to the use of technology, as was mentioned, I think that digital leap has taken place very rapidly. How about taking the pedagogical leap next? How to truly utilize the equipment, the technology, especially when it comes to demonstrating the teaching, for example, in visualizing the content. Everyday schoolwork, when it's organized fully and to fully extend, I think that also acts as a preventive work method because it offers students the readiness and transferable skills that then can be utilized in the next crisis, because most likely some sort of pandemic will arise. We just don't know what it will be and when it will take place, but to get us ready for that. In Finland, we have got this national core curriculum, including the transversal competencies, and one of them being, for example, the critical multiliteracy skills. I think that this includes the fact that how to read data, how to understand media in general is also one good area to emphasize for the students nowadays. I think teachers all in all have enormous power to influence in a positive way all students, especially when it comes to understanding media, understanding the data that is published, either whether it's kind of official or unofficial. And finally, I would like to highlight the fact that I think that what has also been noticed is that individuals they have a much more powerful role in relation to the whole community. When individuals act in a way that is expected, it has also positive effects to the whole surrounding community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Raimo. And it's so like what you're mentioning, like in education field, we've been talking about the so-called famous 21st century skills for years and years and years. And if we think what kind of carried us through the last year and where success was, is that actually when soft skills were implemented, when 21st century skills were implemented. Of course, yes, you do need the technology to execute that. You do need clean environment. But in the end, like came the time where really needed what we were talking about. Minna, from capacity building, professional development of teachers, what's the way forward in your opinion?
Well, Katja, I think we need to look into what makes the school resilient. And first of all, and of course, the resilience comes from highly trained professional educators who know what they're doing, the principals who know how to lead and enable the learning, so we can continue, and also make sure that the school is a safe environment, and not only physically but emotionally also a safe place for the students and the teachers and principals to be there and enjoy their time in school as well. We always say in Finland you have to have fun in school. But what this pandemic has taught us is the core of our schools. What is the core, because we had to take off all the extra layers that were extra. We can't do this now, we can't do this now, but this we must do. So we have been able to identify those things that really are in the heart of our schools, in the heart of our teaching. What are the things in the curriculum that we really must teach our children, and how to get there without using the ways we always have done it. So being very flexible, adjusting to constant changes. This is some of the takeaways that we have gotten from this. And this means that the teachers of the future, they will need to be self-reliant, self-direct, work in a self-direct way. They need to have the autonomy to implement the curriculum in a different ways, because what if something happens? We can't do it the same way again. Now they have tools. We have learned in a year how to do this. And the principal's main job is to help this happening. So in Finland, the principals are also pedagogical leaders. So for us, it's been an easy adjustment. But again, these are the things that we notice that these are really in the core of the resilience of our schooling system. Our kids are going to school, they are performing, they are producing the learning results. But of course, now during this year, we have managed to find the things that we need to also fix in order to make things even better for the next time. Because like Dr. Raimo, I also believe that this is not the last time we're going to see something like this happening. But again, turning this into a very positive thing. Now we have the processes ready. We know what to do. Even if there is a massive big snowstorm or a sandstorm, we don't need to close the schools anymore for a few days. We tell the kids, okay, tomorrow you're not coming to school. The teachers will teach from home. We continue, no gaps in the learning anymore. No excuses, guys. So we have learned how to do this now. So I think this is one of the good things coming out.
Yeah, and as an inside joke to Dubai people, even if it rains, there's school.
Yeah. This is what I wanted to share with Minna in our case when it rains.
I absolutely love how KHDA reacts on social media when it rains and the students are asking for day off. I wonder what they will now come up with. Yes, thank you very much, everyone. We will take a few questions. We started a few minutes late, so we can take this a few minutes over. I was told by the host. So I think there was a question about how to cater for students with special needs. Would someone like to answer that question? Perhaps Raimo from a school perspective. So like how to train their teachers, like especially like with distance learning. So how do we work with special needs students?
Well, first of all, how do we cater students with special needs? To be honest, of course, here in Finland also it's been a big challenge for the ones who pre-COVID also were struggling with school attendance. There's a very few, but still a problematic number of students who have not been able even to attend distant education, and that has been solved in a variety of ways, depending on the municipality, school, or even individual staff members. One option, of course, is to make a phone call or even pay a visit to the student's home and knock on the door and say that, okay, we are worried about you and we would like to have you back. And then when it comes to teachers training, In Finland, as said, we have got this national 3-level support system that all teachers must follow by law. It's a norm. And the same system takes place also during the pandemic time.
May I, Katja, I add to that? Yeah. So just in case there are participants in this panel who don't know how it works, we have an inclusive system in Finland. So only very severe special need cases are in the special schools. Rest of them are with the other students. So we have a very, very high level of inclusive teaching. And of course, this has been a challenge during the pandemic year. And as Raimo said, also in Helsinki, we have had a variety of ways of dealing with the case by case with the different students and their different needs. Some students have been attending school even though during the lockdowns, just because we needed to get them to the classroom. And when it comes down to all the students, the teachers here, for instance, they have a mandatory obligation to contact all the students at least daily. So this is some way of keeping in touch with your students and making sure that everything is okay at home, even if you don't have special needs.
And if I may add to Minna and Raimo, I think in KHDA just during the last month, KHDA published a guide to parents of students with determination, and because the role of the parent is quite important, particularly now in the pandemic circumstances. So it's a very useful guide for parents, schools, and teachers to refer to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then
I would like to. Yeah, well, actually, we don't have time. Sorry. Maybe in the networking rooms you can do that. One last question. So for everyone who's in this session, Dr. Raimo and Minna will be available after this for your face-to-face talks. There is something called the networking room after this session, and you can join them and ask them one-to-one questions. One more thing, if you could answer with like a few words. I would like to pick a question from Umaima, like what is the takeaway from online learning? One thing that will be seen in future education. One thing we take from this as positive.
Well, I can say that at least from Finland, because we were forced into this, in a 48-hour notice, our teachers moved from face-to-face teaching to distance teaching. Digital pedagogy is the key to everything, and the level of your knowledge on digital pedagogy is focus on the pedagogy, not on the digital part on this.
Okay, that's thank you. Takeaway. Yeah. Hint. Or Hunada, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I can put actually 3 words that I lived myself with my schools, because I used to be responsible for 24 schools. I would say communication, flexibility, accessibility. I mean, the learning within the pandemic gave us a massive access to resources, people, tools, digital content, and even communication. I used to observe lessons for 5 schools, like 10 lessons in one day. That has never happened before. So, I mean, this is a few words to share.
Thank you. Okay. Hind or Raimo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can. I think I've shared this before actually with in a previous session, and I think the one thing that we should take out of the whole experience is actually to be humble and to be open, because it's phenomenal what we went through, what we are going through, and what it shows how less we know about everything, honestly. So yeah, that's
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Raimo.
About future education, personally, I hope that flipped learning will take place more often. Of course, taking notice to the age and grade level, but I hope that will increase in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone who listened in on this session. Raimo and Minna, if you can stay here with me even after the live finishes, I would really like to thank Hind and Hunada. And for all the attendees, it's gonna be showing live on the platform in a few minutes' time. You can go and join Minna and Dr. Raimo separately and talk to them in the rooms, and they're available there for quite some time today still. So thank you, everyone, and see you in the next sessions. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.